Hello everyone and welcome to Geopolitical Trends, where truth matters. Whoever thought that Syria could turn to be a battleground between the United States and Russia? There is a new chapter into the Syrian conflict, one that no one, including the Americans, did not anticipate. There are 7 points I am going to address in this analysis. But before I do that, please make sure to subscribe to my channel for more content. Number 1, HTS begs Moscow for help after 3,000 US troops land in Syria. When the Syrian regime of Bashar al-Assad finally fell recently, many around the world were stunned by the rapidity of the collapse and the uncertainty it introduced into an already complex conflict. Syria has been fractured for more than a decade of war, with factions jockeying for local and regional power. Now, in the wake of Assad's downfall, an array of armed groups and foreign militaries are rushing to fill the vacuum, and the latest developments have taken a dramatic turn. Recently, Russian officials confirmed that they are in contact and talks with the new leadership in Damascus, an opposition-led coalition, to ensure that Russia can maintain its military bases. This confirmation came on the heels of a surprising report. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, a powerful Islamist faction once considered among the fiercest opponents of Assad, has reached out to Moscow for assistance. This request coincided with the arrival of 3,000 US troops in northeastern Syria, raising tensions and fueling speculations about how the country's power dynamics may evolve in the coming weeks. Number 2, a brief history of HTS. Hayat Tahrir al-Sham traces its roots to Al-Qaeda, Syria's affiliate, though it has repeatedly rebranded and restructured itself over the years. Once known for its ideological rigidity and the direct confrontations with both Assad's forces and rival rebels groups, HTS gradually positioned itself as a dominant actor in northwestern Syria, particularly in the Idlib region. The group's shifting alliances and pragmatic deals with local factions earned it a reputation for strategic calculation, even as it held firm as a hardliner Islamist identity. Despite its battlefield prowess, HTS's relationship with external powers has been fraught. Turkey maintained tentative ties with HTS, largely to manage border security and influence events in Idlib. Meanwhile, Russia and Iran, key backers of the Assad regime, often labeled HTS as a top extremist threat. The United States, for its part, was deeply wary of HTS's jihadist origins, fearing the group could become a magnet for foreign fighters. Interestingly, the US is set to remove the $10 million bounty it had placed on the de facto Syrian leader, Ahmed al-Shara, formerly known as, by his nom de guerre, Abu Muhammad al-Julani. The latter is the head of the rebel group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, which led the overthrow of Bashar al-Assad earlier this month. How odd that now Western representatives, the likes of German and French foreign ministers, Annalena Baerbock and Jean-Noel Barrot, respectively, held talks with Syria's de facto leader, al-Julani, in Syria's capital on Friday. Interesting. Yet, the sudden downfall of Assad an event many doubted will ever occur, has reshuffled the deck, with Assad out of power and an opposition coalition stepping into the void. HTS faces a new reality. If it wants to remain relevant in a rapidly changing Syria, it must find alliances where it can. As a result, the decision to beg for Moscow's help may be less about ideological shifts and more about tactical survival. Number 3, the collapse of Assad and its immediate aftermath. Before his abrupt fall, Bashar al-Assad had for years clung to power through a combination of brutal crackdown, foreign military support from both Russia and Iran, and of course the complex regional alliances. Many believed he was secure, especially after recapturing key territories and holding Damascus against multiple rebel offenses. But recent reports suggest that widespread protests in core regime strongholds, an accelerated economic collapse, and an unexpected losses on the battlefield involving breakaway elements of the Syrian army culminated in the regime's rapid disintegration. When Assad's government collapsed, celebrations erupted in some parts of Syria as thousands of people took to the streets in Damascus and other major cities. News outlets reported emotional scenes at the famed Umayyad Mosque, where crowds shouted slogans celebrating newfound freedom. Yeah, one that might be short-lived, sorry to say. However, even in the flash of victory, the newly formed leadership coalition struggled to assert control over a fragmented landscape. Multiple groups, including HTS, began maneuvering to consolidate territory and resources, recognizing that power vacuums rarely remain unfilled for long in a war-torn country. Number 4, Russia's new strategy. Moscow swiftly acknowledged the regime's downfall. Rather than lamenting its allies' fate publicly, Russia shifted focus, releasing statements that emphasized military continuity and the need for cooperation with the new government. This pivot suggests, in my opinion, that Russia is now ready to abandon its foothold in Syria. Even under Assad, Russia had established significant military infrastructure, particularly at the naval base in Tartus and the Khmeimim air base near Latakia, both strategic assets for Russia's naval and air capabilities in the Mediterranean. Now, with Assad gone, Russia's main objective is to ensure that no emergent authority revokes these basin rights or attempts to evict Russian forces. With the US suddenly deploying 3,000 troops in northeastern Syria, Russia finds itself in a race to secure its interests. Maintaining channels of communication with any faction that has offered stability, be it the new opposition coalition or, as bizarre as it may sound, a once sworn enemy like HTS, has become a matter of geopolitical necessity. Number 5, why would HTS turn to Moscow? While HTS long battled Assad's army and its Russian backers, the group's leadership appears to understand the new realities. The United States presence, amplified by the arrival of thousands of troops, is not necessarily a boon for HTS. Historically, Washington has viewed groups with extremist ideologies through the lenses of counterterrorism. The possibility that American forces could pivot to target or neutralize HTS cannot be discounted, especially if the US aims to support more moderate or secular factions within the opposition to stabilize the region. As a result, HTS is hedging its bets by reaching out to Moscow. It might hope to position itself as a reliable local partner that can help secure Russian interests on the ground. In return, HTS presumably wants Russia to use its diplomatic and military heft to protect the group from any direct confrontation with US forces or other regional adversaries. It's a risky gambit, no doubt, but one that reflects HTS patterns of pragmatic alliances over strict adherence to ideological hostility. Moreover, HTS likely calculates that the new opposition government in Damascus, though presumably more inclusive, might not align with HTS' vision for a religiously guided state. Faced with the possibility of marginalization or even confrontation, HTS sees an urgent need to secure whatever external backing it can. If that means communicating with the same foreign power that once helped bomb HTS possessions, the group appears willing to make that concession. Number 6, the US troops deployment and broader implications. The arrival of 3,000 US troops at bases in northeast Syria signals Washington's intent to shape the country's post-Assad future. While the US has not fully articulated its goals, which it never does, the move suggests a desire to prevent extremist factions from exploiting the chaos and to ensure that American allies such as Kurdish groups or more moderate rebels gain ground in the power vacuum. Washington may also be wary of letting Russian and Iranian interests dominate the transitional period in Syria. The interplay between US forces, Russian bases, and various Syrian factions sets the stage for a delicate balancing act. Any direct confrontation between American and Russian troops would be catastrophic. Yet, the risk of accidental clashes raises as the maneuver in the same theater. Meanwhile, local actors like HTS, Kurdish militias, and remnants of the Syrian army turned opposition all vie for a seat at the table. The question is, can the new leaders in Damascus orchestrate a semblance of unity, or will Syria once again succumb to overlapping conflicts? Number 7, the road ahead, Syria's fragile transition. In many ways, the ouster of Assad has opened a Pandora box. The dictator's iron rule may have been oppressive and violent, but it offered a grim form of predictability. Now, multiple external and internal forces seek to reshape Syria, each armed with divergent visions and interests. A. The opposition-led government. How will it consolidate authority and maintain public support? Initial jubilation could quickly sour if the new rulers cannot provide security, rebuild essential infrastructure, or formulate a coherent foreign policy. B. HTS and its bet on Russia. Can HTS truly pivot into a more mainstream political or military partner for Moscow? The group's extremist past may alienate the new Damascus coalition, Western governments, and even some of Syria's Sunni majority who see HTS as part of the country's darkest chapter. C. Russia's enduring stakes. Will Russia remain satisfied with a purely military foothold, or will it demand a leading role in shaping Syria's post-war political architecture? Its ability to reach understandings with various factions could test the boundaries of diplomatic finesse. D. The U.S. strategy. Is Washington prepared to engage in a nation building, or does it primarily aim to prevent other powers from filling the vacuum? Clarity on American goals, if ever, will go a long way in determining if Syria's transition fosters relative peace or degenerates into further conflict. F. Regional repercussions. Neighboring states such as Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Lebanon stand to be deeply affected by whatever happens next. Refugee returns, border security, and the spread of extremist ideologies all hinge on a stable and inclusive governance framework in Damascus. Here is my conclusion for you. A pivotal moment for Syria and beyond. In a matter of days, Syria's decade-long war has lurched into a new unpredictable phase. The fall of Assad was once considered a remote reality and possibility. Now that it has come to pass, major powers and local factions are scrambling to shape the aftermath. Aimed at the upheaval, the unusual spectacle of HTS begging Moscow for help underscores the magnitude of the country's transformation. Alliances that once seemed set in stone are being rewritten, and nations once on the fringes of Syrian affairs now see opportunities to advance their agendas. Ultimately, whether Syria moves towards unity and reconstructions or plunges deeper into fragmented chaos remains an open question. But with the US forces landing, Russia entrenched, and domestic groups scrambling to gain footing, one thing is clear: the stakes have rarely been higher for the Syrian people, the region, and the world that can ill afford another bout of protracted conflict. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. As always, remember, geopolitics impacts your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time, thank you.